Hello, beautiful souls. So in today's lesson, we are allowing ourselves to receive a reinterpretation of what sacrifice really means. For the ego likes to tempt us in thinking that if we accept God's will for us, that we are sacrificing our life. I'm sacrificing my life by accepting the will of God. And yet the ego's idea of sacrifice is a faulty one. For the ego thinks that you're going to lose something by giving. The ego thinks that you're going to lose something by receiving God's will. And in truth, there is nothing to sacrifice and there's nothing to lose. And so we get to recognize today in lesson 323 that I gladly make the sacrifice of fear. For the only thing that we are truly letting go of, that we are truly losing, is fear. When we accept God's will is perfect happiness and perfect love, which abolishes all fear. And so that is the only thing we're sacrificing, is fear. I don't know about you, but that allows this well up of intrigue and openness and willingness to absolutely say yes to our Father's will when we know that it is 110,000% wholly whole, happy, joyful, creative, and perfect. That there is no split in our Father. There is no split in His will. The only split there is us thinking that we have a separate will from Him, and the temptation to go along with the thoughts that say we're sacrificing something if we don't do our own separate will. And so today we are abolishing all of that and jumping right into authentic power with God, which is where there is no sacrifice, except for the sacrifice of fear. But I'm willing to give that up today. I gladly make the sacrifice of fear today, is our thought. So let's read through here and see what Jesus kind of adds to this for us. And thank you, brother. So here we go. Here is the only sacrifice you ask of your beloved Son. You ask Him to give up all suffering, all sense of loss and sadness, all anxiety and doubt, and freely let your love come streaming into His awareness, healing Him of pain and giving Him your own eternal joy. Such is the sacrifice you ask of me, and one I gladly make, the only cost of restoration of your memory to me for the salvation of the world. Since today's section is under that of what is creation, we are recognizing here that when we let go of our separate will, which always brings us pain, which always brings us fear, which always brings us confusion and sadness, and everything else in between, when we realize that we can let go of that will and that there is another will that we share with God, and what God's will brings us is the perfection of happiness and joy and creation and extension and everything amazing, then we also get to see that this creation happens when we let go of the separate will, accept the will of God, and in accepting the will of God, not only is fear and all the crap gone, but we have been given the gifts to give the world for salvation of the world. This is what we've been reminded of for the last 323 lessons, is that we are saviors of the world by first saving ourselves from this fear-infested mind. And so today, the only sacrifice that God asks of His Son is that we give up all suffering, is that we give up all loss and sadness, all anxiety and doubt, and freely let your love come streaming in to His awareness, healing Him of pain and giving Him your own eternal joy. Now, is that sacrifice? Is that sacrifice? Fear wants us to fear fear. Yet when we no longer look at fear as having any validity at all, is when we can look past it to the perfect love and presence of our Father and let His will come streaming on in. That His eternal joy will replace all suffering, pain, and sadness completely, wholly, and entirely. This is the change of perception. This is the miracle that we are opening to experience here. So he doesn't ask for anything except for us to step back and let his love be given us as it is and not as we think it is. And so to conclude here, and as we pay the debt we owe to truth, a debt which merely is the letting go of the self-deceptions and of images we worshipped falsely, truth returns to us in wholeness and in joy. We are deceived no longer. Love has now returned to our awareness. And we are at peace again, for fear has gone, and only love remains. And how perfectly is this put, with Jesus even using the language of this world, as we pay the debt we owe to truth. The only debt we owe to truth is a debt of letting go of self-deceptions and as of images we've worshipped falsely. The images that we worshipped falsely were of those thinking that we are worthless, thinking that we are guilty, thinking that we are sinful, thinking that we're not good enough. All of these things are false self-deceptions that we have worshipped, all of these idols that we've worshipped. All that truth asks is that we pay that debt and hand that over to God and say, I don't want this, you take this from me. And in that place of what we let go of comes the truth streaming forward in wholeness and in joy, because that is what the truth is, created by our Father to his creations, which is what we are, that we may extend his creations of whole joy and absolute wholeness into all of the world. Peace and love replace the fear, because love remains is the only thing that is real. And so it is. Today's lesson is a goodie, letting go of this idea of sacrificing anything other than fear and self-deceptions. That's the only thing we're sacrificing, and in truth, that's not a sacrifice at all. That is a gesture, a willing gesture to let it be lifted from our minds and our bodies and our beings and our world, to be replaced by the truth, wholeness, and joy of God. Hallelujah, this is possible and true for us. So let's rest in this space and have an experience of it today, where we are reminded that I gladly make the sacrifice of fear. I gladly make the sacrifice of fear. Gladly. I love you, beautiful souls. Bye.